Hey there everyone, I'm Samuel Johnson and welcome back to the Alien Force Retrospectives, and today we're going to be looking at episode 3 of Ben 10 Alien Force, Everybody Talks About the Weather. And this episode opens with, strangely enough, Heat Blast being chased by police. And if pretty much the police are after him, he's flying around, they seem to be just, and the police are just trying to get, and the police are obviously just trying to get him, and eventually they do manage to catch up with him, but when he transforms, it's not in a green flash, and it's not back into Ben. Winds up turning back into this black kid in a white undershirt and pants, and the symbol of the Omnitrix on his chest isn't actually an Omnitrix symbol. It's actually a plumber's badge, and so when the police end up taking this kid in, and we learn his name is Alan Albright. Excuse me. Well, just coming back up, but sorry about that, really. But anyway, so the police lock Alan in in a freezer and take the badge from him, and the reason they're arresting him, is because apparently a lot of strange things have been going on around this around this town, around their little village, so to speak, or town, whatever. We don't even really see much of the town. All we see is cornfields in the episode, but bottom line, a lot of strange occurrences have been happening around town, and the police are, and the sheriff thinks that Alan is obviously the one that, and because Alan has these, can turn into this rock monster with fire powers, it's obviously got to be him. And and I'm just gonna say this right now, the sheriff for the majority of this episode is kind of a dick, which is kind of strange for someone in the Ben 10 universe, but whatever. So anyway, as they leave Alan in the freezer, his badge starts reacting, and we cut back to Ben, Gwen, and Kevin as they're driving along. As they're driving along. And so, but however, and I forgot to mention this in my last vlog, but when the Magister wound up dying, Kevin took his plumber's badge as a memento, a keepsake. And so as such, the badge starts beeping and reacting, and it shows a map, and it winds up showing a map that allows whoever has the badge to find other plumber's badges. So Ben assumes that it must be from Grandpa Max, and that he's sending them a message. So they track the badge down, but in the meantime, Alan manages to get out of his cuffs via fire spit. So he runs away from the police, and Ben, Gwen, and Kevin manage to find where the badge is, but they don't find Alan. So as Alan is running, but in the meantime, the police manage to track down Alan. They have him cornered. However, he winds up causing a giant explosion, which knocks all the police unconscious, which gets the attention of Ben, Gwen, and Kevin. So when they find him, Ben goes alien and chases that. And they get into a chase, which Ben manages to catch up with Alan, and so he begins grilling him, saying, "There's probably no man chasing you. Where is he? I want to know where he is." But Alan doesn't know what he's talking about, but in the meantime, the police who regain consciousness have tracked Alan down, and now and the sheriff now thinks that Ben is his accomplice. So they begin chasing both of them. So Ben and Alan manage to get away, and Gwen and Kevin are able to provide them with cover. But in the meantime, Ben and Alan managed to hide out in a barn that was just kind of cut in half because one of the strange occurrences that the sheriff thinks Alan did is that there were weird paths that have been burned through cornfields, and one of the paths goes directly right through a building, and cutting it in half. So Alan and Ben begin exchanging their stories, and so Alan reveals that the reason he can transform into a Pyronite is because apparently his father was a plumber, which is a little strange to me, because I'm just going to go into a tangent on this now. How the heck could a Pyronite do it with a human? Because from what I can gather, Pyronites aren't shapeshifters. Because they mentioned that his mom is human, and his alien DNA is from his father's side. on his father's side, so that's how he can turn into a heat blast. But my big problem with that is it's a heat blast. It's a Pyronite. They're people who are made of rock and fire and molten magma. As such, I know I'm gonna be doing. I know I'm probably gonna go into adult territory, but how the hell can they have sex? How the hell could they have sex? And if they did have sex, did she go to the burn? How many greats grandmother go to a burn ward afterwards? I don't get it. And if the father is even if the father, and again, it's just kind of weird. And even if it doesn't apply to Alan or his father, because it still doesn't make a lot of sense. Because maybe did his father disguise himself? Even so, like, did his father have one of those ID masks? I don't know. It's not explained, and it does kind of raise some questions. And it just kind of raises uncomfortable questions that make me wonder how the heck a human and a Pyronite can have sex. But, again, that's kind of a dumb tangent. But anyway. So pretty much, when Alan learned that his father was a plumber, he gave him the badge. He gave him the badge, which Ben actually grabbed from the police station when they tracked it down. And so he gives it back to Alan. At which point, Gwen and Kevin catch up with them, and they review it. And so, Ben, at that point, decides to fill them in on everything else, and even gives them some tidbits on the paths burned through the field, as he turn into a flying alien, which I'll talk about. He actually is an alien that I take interest in. As he and Alan were flying through the air, he actually get a good view of the paths, and Ben thinks they're crop circles, but Gwen thinks they're something else. So she managed to get them high enough up, and it's revealed it turns out that these paths aren't crop circles; they're circuit boards. And someone's converted this whole entire area into just one giant machine. But they don't know. The thing is, they don't know who or why. However, as they're watching this, they see some activity over in one area, so they go to check it out, and they see these guys in yellow suits with these machines, with these weird machines that are doing something to the ground, and one of them hits a switch, and from this area, suddenly this giant mechanical tower appears, and from the tower it causes these clouds to appear, and it begins snowing, and so it turns out that this is all just one giant weather machine. At which point the sheriff arrives on the scene as Ben and Gwen on the scene, and he thinks, and again, going on the guilty until proven guilty train with Alan, he thinks that he's the one that built it, which makes me wonder why he would think that. Where would he get the capabilities for this? I don't know. However, suddenly these guys in the yellow suits attack the police. Ben, Gwen, Kevin, and Alan wind up protecting the police, so both sides fight side by side. So Ben goes swamp fire. They start fight. They gets into a nice fight scene. But during the fight, Ben manages to rip off the masks for these guys, and it turns out these are the same aliens that were working with that they had fought in the opening two-parter. And we finally learn what they're called. They're called DN aliens. And so it turns out that they managed to fight off the DN aliens, and Ben starts putting two and two together as he realizes that they need coal. As when Gwen and Kevin were on their ship in the first episode in the opening two-parter, the ship was cold. As such, they realize they need cold weather to survive. But at that point, the DN aliens attack them, pretty much put everyone in suspended animation, save for Alan, because he's a heat blast. Because that's what those machines were. They were able to put some people into suspended animation. But Alan's immune to it because he's heat blast. And Ben managed to get out of it because he's swamp fire, and he is able to melt it. So Ben and Alan are able to take out the DN aliens that are attacking them, and Ben realizes they need to take out the giant tower if they want to have a chance. So Ben tells Alan to go take care of the guys on top, so he can push the thing down, and he teaches Alan his trick for flying. His trick for flying appropriately by getting himself a platform to fly on. So Alan takes out the DN aliens at the top of the tower, and Ben using Swampfire's strength manages to push the tower down and destroys it. And so Alan uses his powers to free everyone that was frozen, and Ben offers Alan the chance to join their team, but the police chief now changing his mind because he saved their lives, so that must mean he's good now. Police chief says that Alan is gonna help. That Alan should probably stick around and help him just in case there are any more aliens causing trouble. and so that's pretty much how it ends. So rather straightforward episode. I do like that. I do like that there is. It does. First off, I like that it actually does help add to the overarching plot. That's actually something that Alien Force does better than Ben 10, as I think I already which I already mentioned. I think in the other ones, but they have more stuff dedicated to the plot that actually does feel like that do still feel like individual episodes that add up to it. It really does feel, and there's more. There's more to it. It's not just here and there throughout the show. They do have a lot more. They do have episodes that contribute to the plot. And while this episode doesn't really kind of reveal much about what the DNA aliens or the hybrid are planning, we do see at least that we do see more of them, and we even at least learn what they're called. So yeah, it's a nice little tidbit that it really is. It's a little tidbit that's really nice. Next up, another thing that I like about this episode is that we kind of see more characterization, and we see more history kind of being played out, which again is a little confusing, but like for example, the fact that the plumbers were not just humans but alien. Well, actually, we already saw that with the Magister, but the fact that apparently this is a plot element that's actually introduced for this show, that apparently certain children of plumbers actually get superpowers from their parents, just kind of alien powers, like with Alan. And we do see more of that, but not as much on actually, which I think you can honestly say is something that had been started with what was his name again? Cooper, yes. That was something that was started with Cooper in Ben 10 versus Negative 10, as he was the grandson of a plumber and he was a technopath. So I like that they're kind of expanding on that, even though if you actually try and stop and think about it, it kind of makes you worried for the family line, but whatever. But kind of while I'm on talking about this, I kind of want to talk about like a moment in this episode that I don't think, which kind of irks me, especially because of how things work. Because, for example, like after Gwen and Kevin manage to get the police off Ben and Alan's trail, which leads to a kind of slightly humorous scene where it turns out Kevin has a lot of unpaid speeding tickets, and he just considers the fact that he has all these a personal record. Kevin reveals why Alan's dad gave him the plumber's badge in the first place. It turns out that the plumber's badge is is pretty much like an interplanetary passport. So if any real plumbers find Alan, which again doesn't really make a lot of sense since the plumber's supposed to be retired on Earth, at least if that's what if they're trying to retain some continuity in the original show, it turns out that the badge. If any plumbers see Alan with the badge, they'll realize that he's on Earth legally, and that he's. However, Kevin also drops a little bombshell, drops the fact that he thinks that Gwen's powers come from their grandfather, which does irk me for reasons reasons explained later. But at this point, this is the episode that lays the seeds for it. So I'm bringing this up now because I'm going to bring reference to it later in an episode that expands on this, but bottom line, it's a little thing, but it does irk me a little. So, anyway, what else good? Well, I think another thing I like seeing is the team interactions. So I think there's actually a very nice scene in the beginning of this episode, which is with Ben, Gwen, and Kevin as Kevin's driving Gwen and Ben home, but Kevin is deliberately driving the speed limit, even though he's kind of a bad boy, so to speak. And of course, as he's doing that, Ben is getting annoyed he's telling Kevin to speed up, but he says, "No, I'm going to keep the speed limit." And Ben, of course, says, "Mom's going to kill me if I'm home late again." It's like, well, if you don't, well, if you're grounded, then it will just be me and Gwen on these. And Gwen says, "Do you honestly think I'm not going to be coming if Ben's not here?" Ben's not here. And again, it's a nice little scene that shows kind of more of their team interaction. And I think what also makes it nice is that this also kind of shows. You can still see the characters. Helps showcase the characters' altered and older personalities. Because Ben's impatience is a given in any time. Ben's impatience is a given. Which is a carryover from the original show. And again, there's a little bit of Gwen's snarkiness, not just in this scene, but when they find Alan's plumber's badge, because he broke out because he burned a hole through the police station. So when Gwen sees it, she asks, "Wonder what this is?" And Kevin says, "Giant hole," and she just says, "That's helpful." It's nice little things. She still is maturing because she's still being more understanding and helpful. It's just that it's just those little things that I like. It's just those little things that are rather amusing. So. But honestly, I do like the plot of the. I think that otherwise, I do like the plot for this episode. I do like that it actually does expand on more things, like the introduction of the idea that plumbers' kids may have had superpowers. I think is actually rather amusing as it opens up potential storylines of the future. Like, what if there were other kids out there who have superpowers? What would they be? And the show kind of does more with it, but not a lot. But it's a nice beginning, and while it does raise some questions, if you do try and stop and think about it, I do like seeing that there are that they are gaining allies in this, and I think it really works. And while I'm talking about this, I want to talk about this whole episode also shows us another one of Ben's 10 new aliens that were introduced in the show, namely Jet Ray, who is pretty much a giant red flying stingray who can shoot lasers out of his eyes and tail and can fly at super speeds. Honest to God, Jet Ray is one of my favorite aliens in this show. I honestly believe that Jet Ray is an underrated alien, and what's sad about it, I think Jet Ray is kind of underrated. I think Jet Ray because he combines some of the better aspects from Accelerate and Ripjaws, which is kind of a theme for many of these aliens. So I like the fact that he can fly. We do see that he can apparently that he can even swim fast through water. But he does have enough extra stuff so that he's his own thing. He does have enough extra stuff. And while there's not really a lot to him. I don't think there's really a lot you need because I think he's actually again, I like the super speed. I like the super speed flying. I like the lasers. I think he's just but I think the sad thing is that after Alien Force and Ultimate Alien, I think after Alien Force you don't really see him that much, which I think sucks because I think that he could have been more useful. Like super speed and flying, because I honestly think he got trumped by the other flyers in the show, like with Stink Fly, or another one of the aliens, or another alien we'll be seeing in the next episode. But bottom line, I think I like Jet Ray. I think he's kind of cool. But otherwise, well, I'm going back. I was going back to the plot. I think the plot. So I can't really think of much else to say about the episode. It's just kind of rather straightforward. It helps expand more. It expands more storyline. Helps expand the story for the show. It opens up some doors for more potential stories. I think the only thing I am actually disliking is that one little moment where Kevin insinuates that Gwen's powers may not be magic, and the sheriff, who I think is a dumb antagonist. His reasoning for going after Alan is because all the strange things have occurred, and then Alan appears with his superpowers, and so he assumes that Alan's the one that's guilty, even though he has no proof. It's rather dumb, and regardless of what happens in the episode, he just thinks Alan's guilty. Hang him up, blah blah blah. It's really annoying, and when he finally thinks Alan has created this weather machine to somehow steal heat to feed his powers, I just think, oh, screw you. I didn't like that. I did not like that. But again, otherwise, yeah. Otherwise, I think this is a nice episode. It opens up it adds more to the story. Opens up It opens up other potential storytelling avenues. It's a nice fighting, and I think it also showcases kind of another thing that this show kind of does different from Ben 10. As I mentioned before, as I think I mentioned that Ben 10 was more silly and child did kind of like exploiting more of the fun aspect of being a superhero. Here, it does take a bit more of a mature tone about with having these characters actually dealing with these moral issues and still having some of the fun stuff. So, I like that. It helps exemplify Ben 10 Alien Force's tone and what they're going for. Especially when Ben is the one that helps Alan with his pointers with how to fly, since Alan's been having trouble, and so Ben teaches him how he flew when he was heat blast. So again, honestly, I think it's a rather good episode. I think it's actually a bit better than the opening two-parter, as it helps set up the mood more. So and so yeah, again, I think it's a good episode. Nice plot. Helps continue the storyline, expands on other aspects. Otherwise, so yeah, it's a good episode. So yeah, thank you for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson, and tune in next week where we look at episode 4 of Ben 10 Alien Force. So again, I'm Sam Johnson, and I'll see you next week. Take care.